class. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, January what? 8th, right? January 8th. We're here in sunny Las Vegas. What's the temperature? Anybody know? About 60 something. Danielle, would you please turn the lights on over there? It's too far for me to see. Okay, so, and how's the weather in California?
A little bit of overcast. It's cooling down a little bit. We're like 70s, low 70s.
Okay, no rain?
Yeah, just a little like maybe drizzle in the Inland Empire, but other than that, really no rain.
Okay, Dennis, I need you to do a favor, and that is to tilt the camera down a little bit because all we see is the ceiling. There we go. There are actually people there. Good. Okay, so I want to start by saying this. If you can't get employment here, it's because you're not trying. If after coming here you can't get employment, it's because you're not trying. There is no reason that you can't get employment because you will have the skills. And then the largest problem we have is people come here thinking all they have to do is show up. Or all they have to do is do the assignments that they really feel like doing. Like when somebody's watching you type, you're typing. When somebody's saying, okay, it's memorization time, that you're doing memorization. But you need to do everything. And a key thing here is employment planning. If you can't get a job, if you do the employment planning stuff right, if you can't get a job, it's because you're not doing it. That's simple. You're not doing your job. And we're not, we have our proactive employment plan. The proactive employment plan isn't to take you like it's your first job and say, okay, here's your job. Other places, like you go to Workforce, these one-stops and places like that, they let you think their job is to help you get a job. Well, they don't spend the time to know you, to know what you should be doing. They don't spend time to do research on employers and research on you to make sure there's a right fit. And in your books, you know, that's what this symbol is. Everybody should have this in their composition books, right? Or for people in California, it's this right here.
For what, symbols?
Yeah, and on your symbols. Everybody has this in their symbols, right? On their symbols page. Hoorah. Can I have an amen?
Amen.
Something?
Yes, yes.
No, I don't have
symbols.
that.
No, seen this.
When was the
First time
symbol?
Well, on the sample book for your composition book, there's a page that had symbols.
It didn't have nothing on it.
That's my
It just
first
said
symbol.
symbols.
The book had symbols on it. And I know it does, and Mike has done it. So anyway, in any negotiation, in business, in life, you have, this is them, this is you. Okay? One of those things is a them and one of them is a you. There's what they want and what they'll take. Okay? Here's what I would like, here's what I'll take. Right? We all know that. And it's the same thing with you. Here's what I'm willing to do, and here's what I want to do. So for us, it's just the opposite. You only end up having a deal if these two things fit like this. If it's like this, do you have a deal? No, because you aren't willing to pay what they're willing to take. Your maximum is less than their minimum.
What's the top on the second one?
It's what you're willing to pay. Here's the most I'll pay. Here's what I'd like to pay. Here's the most I'll pay. Right? We all know this. If you do your proactive employment plan, you know what they're looking for. You tailor your approach to what it is they're looking for. Is this a good deal? Is that a good deal?
No,
Why?
because you don't meet anywhere. I mean,
But why isn't it good specifically?
Because you want more for them.
You're willing to pay them more than they want, right? Here's what they would like to get. Here's what they're willing to take. You're willing to pay this. The least you're willing to pay is more than they want. What happens in a deal like that?
it doesn't get done.
Huh?
It doesn't get done.
It does get done, but what happens when it's done? This person is unhappy.
Feel like they spent too much?
No, this is the guy, this is the seller. Seller, buyer. Okay, let's do it that way. If the seller finds out that you would have paid more, how do they feel? Right. They don't feel good. Now, if you paid here, and you know they would, and you learn they would have taken down here, do you feel good? Why not? You overpaid. Okay? This isn't a good deal. Is this a good deal? There is no deal here, right?
There's a gap.
This gap, you're willing to pay less than, you won't pay the minimum they want to get. There's no deal. That's what happens most of the time when you just break it down to a money thing. How much money do you want? Well, I'm only willing to pay this if you don't lower your thing, and I'm not going to raise my thing. We just aren't going to have a meeting of the minds, as they say. So in this holds true for the employment plan. Instead of it being about money, here's what the prospective employer wants. If you're just throwing your resume out there, if you're throwing 10 resumes out there a day, every day, how customized are those resumes? Okay. So what's the probability that you're going to match their needs with what your resume says? It's pretty slim, right? So you shouldn't expect to get a job if you're just throwing 10 resumes out. And then it's very easy to say, boo-hoo for me, no one will hire me. Right? Well, why aren't they hiring you? According to this, number 4, your resume isn't tailored to what they want. How's it going to get tailored to what they want?
You have to know what they want.
You have to know what they want. Right, you have to know what they want. If you know what they want and you have a perfect resume, you should get the interview. And if you can articulate that you really, really want that position, as long as there isn't somebody more qualified at that time, you should get it. But that's why you want to be working 3 to 5 employers. So today's talk is about the resume. Yes?
Interesting piece of trivial pursuit. That original symbol that we wrote there of the 2 clasping part circles.
Yeah.
That's an ancient Anasazi and Hopi symbol for fellowship, shaking hands.
Ah, okay.
That's what you do at the end of an interview.
Okay. In a perfect transaction, it looks like this.
That's right.
Or some people draw it like this.
Director,
Yeah.
how, I guess I want to get to the film industry. Right now, I'm using a resume that's with the template was set by the school here.
Mhm.
How would I tailor that resume so that the film industry would take notice of it?
Okay. So we're going to get to that. So that question was about specific things on the resume. So first I want to start higher level. And the high level is, once again, we are not saying this is the ideal, perfect resume format for the universe that will work at all times. If you think there is that, you're going to be frustrated. It's just like the Barry Schwartz talk where he went in to buy a pair of jeans. What happened? Who remembers? He came out with the best pair of jeans he's ever had in his life, but he was unhappy because his expectations were too high. If you think you're going to find the ideal, perfect resume that's going to sell you, it ain't out there. You can nitpick these resumes to death. The resume we have meets these criteria. It's laid out in a simple way that's easy for people to read. And the first pass through, you need to pass the 2-second test. So again, let's just say you're applying for a job and 100 other people are applying there. And let's say they took 5 minutes. Isn't that a reasonable amount of time to read somebody's resume to make a decision? If they took 5 minutes to read the resume, how long is that? 500 hours?
500 minutes.
500 hours?
6 hours, 600 minutes, 6 1/3 hours.
500 minutes.
6 1/3 hours.
How many hours is that?
6 1/3.
How many hours is that?
6 hours? Yes.
Don't guess.
Hours.
5.
8.
500 divided by.
My bad, 8.
Okay. What's 60 times 8? 480, right? It leaves 20.
8.33 hours. 8.333.
Or and a third, if you like fractions. Good, thank you. We've got one person here who's doing the math. Okay, good. So are they going to spend a whole day looking at 100 resumes to get down to 10 interviews? Who thinks they're going to do that?
No.
Okay, good, because they aren't going to do that. They're going to spend maybe the first pass through five seconds. Maybe they're not supposed to spend 5 seconds, but the person thinks, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I don't need to spend a minute. I don't need to spend 30 seconds. I'm really good at this. I can look at that resume and I can see whether this person knows what they're doing. Because if they can't spell right, if they can't format right, if this thing is jumbled and I can't figure it out, I don't really need to try to know that person, because I know in this stack of 100, there's somebody who's good and who can put together a good resume. So now we're not talking about 500 minutes, right? We're talking about what? 500 seconds. Okay? And that works out to be what? Huh?
Got to be using the same math. It's 8 1/3.
8 1/3 minutes. Okay? And they're going to put them into 3 piles. What are the piles? You're doing triage, right? So yes, no, maybe. It's going to be no, yes, and maybe. They're looking for yes and no. No, 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 yeah. Boom. Not quite sure. I'm going to go through a second round. I'm going to put that in the maybe pile, because if I have less than 10 yeses, then I need to worry about the maybe pile. If I have 20 yeses and I'm looking for 10 people, do I need to care about the maybe pile?
No.
The best person in the world just got knocked out. I have personal experience with this working at a venture capital company in Silicon Valley. You know, a business plan is going to come in every day, and it's going to take you 80 hours to really start your investigation of, do you want to invest in this company? How many hours do you think you're going to spend to figure out whether you want to spend 80 hours? The least possible. So if a resume comes in, not a resume, a business plan comes in, and it's on handwritten paper and there's hand drawings on there from somebody who can't draw, how much time is that going to get? How much mind share is that going to get?
A few seconds.
About 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, 5 seconds goes faster than you think, right? If you have your hands on a hot stove. Well, no, it lasts forever if your hands on a hot stove, right? So the first pass through, the best person, the ideal person for the position could get wiped out because their resume wasn't perfect. Here you have 16 weeks to develop your resume. So if you don't have a perfect resume at the end of 16 weeks, that's your fault. You have time to do Facebook in here. You have time to do your resume. You have time to do, if you're really committed to doing something, you can have the perfect resume. And it's not that hard because we're starting with the format that's good enough to get started. It's not like saying you figure out what the ideal resume is. All you need to do is modify it for your thing. So the second pass through depends on how many people are in the yes pile. If they want to interview 10 people and the first pass through 10, now what? Okay, now they're going to go through and they're going to look. Dennis, it sounds like you have your microphone on over there now.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ed?
Sounds like you have 2 microphones on over there.
No, just the one.
Okay. Sounds better now. So, if you can't get to an interview and they don't know you, they haven't met you, all they are judging whether they want to interview you based on your resume, and you can't get to an interview, what does that tell you?
Your resume isn't good.
Your resume is not good enough. It doesn't tell you anything about you other than you're lazy, probably. Okay, either you didn't do the research, so you don't have important keywords, you don't have power words, you haven't tailored it to that business. Either you haven't done that, or you're not really trying. So the good news is you have 16 weeks to have the perfect resume, so that when somebody spends 5 seconds, you're going to go in the yes pile. And if you're now down to 10 people, if you're down to 10 people, competing with 10 people, that's pretty good. And if you have 3 to 5 companies, that's all you're working on, you know, that's a good start. So our resume is designed to keep it simple to get through this 5-second gateway and to be noticeable because it's laid out a little bit differently. Looks good, but you have to do the formatting right. When these things are done in Word, there's a lot of formatting stuff in there. In Word, a lot of different spacing, letter styles, or fonts, sizes, things to make it bold because people don't read, they what? Skim or scan. They skim it or they scan it. They just look at it very quickly. And at that first pass through, they're just looking for the ones that are no good to throw in the no pile. That's what they're looking for. The second time through, they're going to read it. So the second time through, these things become very important. Now, where did they say you get the keywords?
From the job description.
Right. So does it make sense to anybody to be sending 10 resumes out per day? Why not? It's a numbers game. Okay, well, how long is that going to take? Really? See, I can't.
If you're looking at the same type of job.
Well, so for me, I can't imagine doing enough research on a company in less than a day. I want to know who the founders are. I want to know who the decision makers are. I want to know what does this company stand for? What did Simon Sinek say? People don't what?
They don't.
By why you do it.
Right. How many people remembered that? It's on the test every week. Everybody should remember that. Okay? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So if you're applying for a job, and in your resume you have these keywords talking to them about why you get why they do what you want to work there because you believe why they do what they do, is that going to help you or hurt you?
That's gonna help.
Help. Now, do you think most companies have this big thing that says, here's why we do it?
No.
No, most of them don't. You figure out why they do it because of other things they say. So I can't imagine me being able to spend less than a day researching a company. And my plan is I only want 3 to 5 companies. I'm going to invest a week before just throwing my resume out there, getting it on their radar as a no, this guy's not good enough. I'd rather spend a week. What are they saying if you're a sewer? What do they call sewers? Seamstress? Okay. Tailor. Okay. What do tailors say about their thing? Measure twice, cut once. Right? Why?
So you make sure it's correct
Oops.
the first time, yeah.
Oops could be very bad.
No Acme stretchers have been invented yet.
Correct. Okay? My time machine is broken. I can't go back and undo what I did. So I would rather spend the time up front to do the research, so when I send the resume, it looks perfect, and then when they go to round 2 and they're going to spend 5 minutes looking at it, they say, this guy gets what we do. We've got to bring him in here and see if this guy's real. This looks like it's too good to be true. Okay, that's the proactive employment plan. I don't see how somebody can say you can send 10 resumes out and be able to do this properly. Yeah, you can do it better than if you just send 10 resumes out, go to their website, find a little bit of information. But again, who, what, where, when, why? Who is this company? Where did they come from? Why do they do what they do? When did they start? You know, try to figure out where they're going. Go on YouTube. Do what on YouTube?
Check their mission.
Search for videos, right?
Trailers.
The mic has been gone too long. It's usually like that. So search for videos that they do. Who are the key people? Who do I know that might know somebody? How many steps away at the most is anybody here from President Obama?
6 degrees of temperature.
Okay.
6 degrees of separation.
Who do you know that knows Obama?
Yeah.
Dick Cheney.
Do you know Dick Cheney? Do you know Dick Cheney? Okay. Well, I can assure everybody here that you are me, Janet Napolitano, President Obama.
Oh, 3 degrees.
Okay? So you're only that far from President Obama. So if you find out who the key people are in this company, you're going to find out that you have somebody, you know somebody in common with them if you spend the time to do the research. Which, by the way, deep learning, algorithm, an ideal project for everybody to do would be to do a data on 300 million people in the world and figure out how you're connected to every one of them. Because guess what? That's coming. That's a thing that is coming. If they can do 1.5 million pictures of cars and in 15 minutes have it so they're just completely, you can sort them 16,000 ways in real time in 16-dimensional space. We are all in the next few years going to have the opportunity to figure out how many degrees of separation we are from everyone else in the country. Who do I know that knows this other person? And there's a company already doing that. It's free service. What?
No, I said damn.
You said damn?
Yeah.
When you say that, I mean, I just realized, you know, I've actually met John Kerry and John Tester.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm sure they know President Obama, because John Kerry came to the Coast Guard Car Spencer.
Okay.
And
So you've met him. Would you say you know him or you've met him?
I've met him. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know him like well.
Okay.
Harry works
Talk,
for
yes.
Obama.
Okay, now,
Harry works for him.
okay, so let's go back. There is a service you can subscribe to that tells you how many degrees of separation you are from other people. LinkedIn. Okay, it's a crude version that tells you who's in your circles and who's in, one generation removed, 2 generations removed, who are friends of friends, things like that. Well, guess what the future is? I just told you. What is it? What did I say?
That you're going to be able to find out just how far apart you are from the individuals.
From everyone.
Yeah.
There'll be this master algorithm that attaches everybody to everybody else. 300 and some million people, how they're connected to all 300 million other people. And you just have to say, well, here's me. How do I fit into that network? So can you imagine if you can grasp that concept now, how it might be able to help you or help your business? Let's say Miguel in the carpet cleaning business said, I want to do a deep learning on everybody, on every, do you do primarily residential or commercial? Which do you prefer if you had to do one?
I do more residential, like housing.
Okay, so would you want to do residential or commercial? If you had to do one or the other. Okay, commercial. So let's say Miguel said, okay, I want to do commercial carpet cleaning. I'm going to use deep learning to help me do that. What would he have? What would he start off with? Every commercial place, every business that has carpet in the market you're in. And then you would segment those into different categories. Like, is the person the owner or not the owner? Is it a property manager? Who's the decision maker on getting carpet cleaning done? Are they people who care or people who don't care, right? And you put in all those criteria that you want, and then you can identify the 50,000 locations that need their carpet cleaned this month. Do you think you could be successful if you had 50,000 companies that were exactly that was? Then that's just this month. Does 50,000 seem like a lot? How many times should a commercial place clean their carpet a year? Okay, so I would say, good places do it 4 times a year. Have a carpet cleaner in there 4 times a year. So 50,000 times 3, that's 150,000 different businesses. I would say there's 150,000 businesses that have carpet in them in Clark County. So that means right now 50,000 places need their carpet cleaned. And a lot of people stay with the people they have because what? They're lazy, right? They don't want to change. They're satisfied, or they're not satisfied, but they're not unsatisfied enough. So the resume is the thing that gets you the interview.
But your cover letter better be damn good too.
Well, not necessarily. If you're going to do a cover letter and it's not perfect, you'll probably get knocked out. For the cover letter, less is more.
That's right.
The more you say, the greater the chance you're going to say something bad. Okay? Because they don't really, in the weighting isn't based upon the cover letter, it's based upon the resume. You're not going to get an interview because you have a good cover letter and the resume sucks. Right? Can you get an interview without a cover letter? Yeah.
Probably.
Especially if you file it online, right?
Right.
Okay. So the key takeaway from what Dave said is, if you're going to do a cover letter, don't blow it. Don't screw the pooch, as they say in San Diego. Make sure that your cover letter is short and to the point. But the resume has to be perfect, because you will get knocked out. Now, what happens if you just say, I can't do I can do this sort of, I can do this sort of, but I really can't do this because my vocabulary isn't good enough to do power words. Well, what is going to happen if you get in an interview? If you have a really professional help, gives you really good power words, you sit in the interview and you don't really know what those power words mean.
They're going to know you didn't do the resume.
And then what?
It's not you.
Then they don't
They don't trust you.
trust you, wherever that way.
It's behind the board.
Okay, they don't trust you. And then what happens if they don't trust you?
You're not
They're
going
not
to
gonna
hire
hire
you.
you.
You're not going to hire you. Right. So these are important, but don't exceed your vocabulary by too far. You can exceed it by a little bit because that means you want to learn. But don't exceed it too far so that when you get into the interview, you can't ace the interview. Because remember, they said, this is good, but at the end, they said it leads up to this is the thing. If you don't ace the interview, you're not going to get the job. If you don't do this, you're not even going to get to the interview stage.
Yeah, the resume gets you the interview, but the interview gets you the job.
Correct. So, if you go into the interview and you feel uncomfortable because you don't really remember what your resume said, what are you going to be thinking about? Yeah. Oh, I hope they don't ask me that question. Or what did I write? What months did I say I was at that company? What did that company? What did I say my job did? What did that word plutocrat mean? You need to be, from that TED Talk on flow, everything else needs to disappear other than what's coming out of that person's mouth. Is it good for them to ask you a question and you say, huh? What?
Actually, I haven't done that because when I went for my interview, they interviewed non-Larson students along with Larson students, like Rami and Ray Sean. And I asked him once I got the job, like how he felt like between the two interviews, and he said like the non-Larson students, they had a lot of like pauses. This one girl took like a minute before she said, "Can I get back to you on that?" He said like a complete lack of confidence. But yeah, they were very impressed with like the way that how we handled our flow, confidence.
Good.
If they ask you a question, and they will. The first question I got is like, "Tell me about yourself." So it's like.
And you nailed it.
And nailed it. Once I got the job, I was like, they warned us that was a trick question. Like, we know. They know.
Okay, don't tell them
Well, that was
the
after,
secrets.
That was after they
hey, by
hired
the
me,
way,
and
I
they
tricked
loved
you
me.
into hiring me because I was prepared.
Oh, no. But the thing is, like, we know that it's like, I'm letting them know that's like a trick question. And this is, long after they're like, we love you. I'm like, oh, okay.
Good. And they do. My understanding from Matt is they do. So, keep it simple, important keywords, power words, but power words that are not beyond your ability to defend. Tailor the resume, and this means doing what?
Research.
Doing research. And research is who, what, where, when, why. Look at them on YouTube. If you're going to go work for Zappos, if you want a job at Zappos, if you haven't spent 5 hours watching Tony Hsieh on YouTube, you're lazy. Obviously, that job you don't really care about getting that job. If you're not willing to invest 5 hours watching Tony, you should watch Tony Hsieh for 5 hours anyway, because you're going to learn a lot. But if you're not willing to do that to get a job, that translates to employers of you don't really want the job. Let's say the employer says to you, hey, did you watch any YouTube videos on Tony Hsieh? Let's say you want to work at Zappos, and they ask the question, you ever watch any of our YouTube's videos? What do you think they think if you say no?
But you don't care.
But you already told them, I really want this job because I love Zappos.
And I think they should. Fair enough to check them
So
out.
if you say, I really love this job, I want to work here, I'm committed to this, you should expect them to ask a question, especially as we move into the future. You see any YouTube videos on our company? Now that's
say yes, and better be ready to recite which ones you saw.
exactly, because the follow-up is which one?
Or ones. Hey, I saw 3 of them.
Yeah. If you say I saw 3, and it's there's 300 of them on Tony Hsieh, not That's like, well, you just kind of did this because you wanted to get the job. You're not really drinking the Kool-Aid here. Okay. If you said, yeah, I spent 6 hours, I have got 5 pages of notes. I did my own YouTube video on the Tony Shea YouTube video. And then they say, cool, really? And you say, yeah, here's the link.
And you better be able to spell his last name.
Exactly. Well, that's going in. So that's all you have to do. Because you know what? Nobody else is doing that. Everybody else is doing stuff. They're not even doing this stuff. We have 16 weeks here to make this perfect, to find the company, to understand what they're looking for. And every company that's a good company is looking for good people. The fact that you have gone through 16 weeks here, coming here, as required for 16 weeks, shows that you're the kind of person who can be a person who really wants that job. When we talk to people, like the other day, Steve Forbes, of, especially the people from Catholic Charities that have to bring their house with them. The Catholic Charities won't even let them leave their bags there for the day. You think Catholic Charities can let people leave their bag there for a day?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Is it a lot of work for them?
No.
No, they already have a guy watching bags.
They got a trailer down there that's empty.
Okay, well, they have that thing that they can lock it in, but there's a guy outside of the room who can just have your claim ticket.
So with that, do they you have to come there and get a spot, or is that why they make them take everything with them? If they're not
They make them do it. They make people. The real reason they make people take their stuff with them is because they don't care. They don't care. That's the real reason. Now the excuse is, well, we don't want to be responsible for your junk.
They don't have to care.
Well, they don't have to care, but they don't say we don't care. They say we don't want the liability. The guy doesn't start work till 8. That's not really his job description. If we had to do that for everybody who did something we couldn't do, they don't care. That's what it is. They just fundamentally, they don't care. Okay, but they're not going to say they don't care. However, if you're the person who does care, walk from Catholic Charities every day with your house on your back, that's a commitment. That shows commitment. If you do that every day for 16 weeks, 80 days, that shows employers, when you say, I really want to work here, and they say, well, what does really mean to you? How do you define really? Do you define really as the first obstacle you quit? Second time you quit? Or do you define really as I don't quit till I get it or until I die? Navy SEAL training. Guys who make it through Navy SEALs told me, I've said this before, the way they got through BUD/S training was they convinced themselves, I'd rather die than quit. I'm not going to ring the bell. They're going to have to take me out of here on a stretcher. That's the only way you do it, because they are telling you, you can't make it. Wouldn't you rather be home? Wouldn't you rather be with your girlfriend? You're not qualified. I've been here doing this for 25 years. You are not a Navy SEAL. Why put yourself through this anguish? You're not going to make it. And what happens if you believe them?
You quit.
You quit. That's the same thing in life and in jobs. People don't make it because they believe they can't. The people who do, they didn't believe they can't. They just said, I'm going to do it until I either do it or until they take me out of here on a stretcher. I'm not going to stop. But everything else is geared towards the, you don't really want that, you don't really need that, something better is going to come along. And so we're conditioned to, you don't have to take that Navy SEAL mentality. Yes, Miguel? Another stretch. Yes, Safira.
They do that a lot to eliminate the weak and the unmotivated.
That's why they do it. That's the fundamental reason they do it. It's like Keith was saying in the Marines. They break you down and they build you back up. That's how it is in law school. You go to any top university here and you're going to be in something, a science type program. It's the only people who graduate are people who can make it through the program. We don't help you. We give you the opportunity because if you can't make it through law school here, you don't deserve to be a lawyer. That's how the top law schools are. That's how top schools are. Is we have our reputation and we can't afford to do it. Navy SEALs, they say, hey, you know what, if you are not absolutely good enough, we can't let you be a SEAL because what happens?
Bad things.
Bad things happen. Mission fails. Oops. I thought you were that other guy when I fired my weapon. So, okay, so it's break time. So these are the things to know. Focus on a perfect resume. We've got plenty of time. Look to the people next to you to read your resumes, memorize it, and then we'll go forward next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ed.